Hey guys, my name's Qasim Khan. I'm a senior at Harvard College. I live in Quincy House, so if you guys don't know about houses, there's 13 houses and it's an integral part of your community experience. So yeah, I'm studying applied math with a focus in economics. And trust me, when I came in, I was like pure math and trying to figure things out, but I'm very happy with my concentration. And what else? So yeah, that's who I am. So as far as extracurricular activities go, I was one of those people who tried to jump all in when he came in freshman year, and I took a lot of extracurrics, and I realized I couldn't handle the stress. So I started with ballroom dancing. I quit right before my exams came around, but it was an incredibly interesting experience, especially I come from Pakistan, which I forgot to mention. I'm from Peshawar, Pakistan, a small little area in the north and very close to the Afghan border. So a very different lifestyle, a very different culture before I came here. So ballroom dance, very much out of my comfort zone. Holding hands with other girls, had not done that before. But aside from that, I tried to get into pre-professional groups. So there's something called the Harvard College Consulting Group on campus, and that was very tough and very competitive. And so I tried once, I tried twice, I finally got in the third time. And it was interesting to get like a case activity experience to prepare you for how to get jobs after campus. But it kind of, I realized afterwards that that wasn't also the best thing for me. So 2 extracurrics, didn't really get it. I found at least something that I felt very strongly about in 2 extracurrics. The first being the Harvard College Pakistan Student Association. So basically like-minded people from different parts of my country, and also individuals who've lived in the United States, but are of Pakistani origin. So a vast array of opinions, many conversations about our country, and learning things about my culture that I didn't necessarily know. So I loved that. And finally, I alluded to this earlier, the house life. So Quincy House is my house, and I didn't realize this until my junior year, but a big part of how to foster the relationships within other houses, is intramural sports or intramural activities. And so I think within this week alone, I spent 20 hours playing volleyball, soccer, flag football, just a lot of different sports. Softball, I've never played softball, I'm a cricket person. So it's been a lot of fun and very interesting, just getting to know other people and playing IM sports with people. So those 2 are my big extracurriculars. So freshman year, I made sure to go to a thing called the Freshman Summer Activities Fair to figure out what kind of opportunities Harvard has to offer for us during our summers. I ultimately felt very homesick, so I ended up just going home my freshman summer. But many people did many incredible things, like go to Japan, for instance, and that was something that I really wanted to do. So my sophomore summer, I ended up going to Japan, living with the host family for 2 months, having an absolutely phenomenal experience, meeting people from different schools. And what I realized was, during the summer experience, was that family isn't necessarily the family that you've known your entire life back home. It can be in a different country across the world with different people who speak a different language. And that realization was very important to me during my 4 years at Harvard, because now I consider the people that I live with here family. And of course, so now you have this cultural exposure-oriented summer experience, but you also want to contrast that with a pre-professional experience when you're trying to go into the job force. So my junior summer, I worked at a think tank in Washington, D.C. called the Institute for the Study of War. And now this might sound fancy at first hand, but I was one of those people who fell through the cracks of the very intense summer recruiting programs that they have. So everybody's trying to do investment banking and finance, consulting, which is also parallel. Then you have like IOP and very intense internships. And then finally, if you don't get through all of those, you go and look for something on your own. And so I was interested in the study of terrorism because of where I come from. And I found this little opportunity in DC, and I ended up going there. So not to make it sound intimidating, but more as in just think about the awesome opportunities that Harvard leverages for you, and just work towards them slowly, and don't be stressed out, because life works out. So luckily, I do know what I'm doing post-grad. So after the recruiting process, so I actually fell through the cracks again when I was looking for a job, and I was very fortunate. So I have 2 things to say about this. The first is I was very fortunate to finally get a job opportunity. So I'll be in New York City working for a consulting company called Ernst & Young. But I also want to point out that the only reason I got that was because I had networks that I didn't know of. So a big part of the experience here, and as international students, you come in and you're like, hey, I applied to college because I had good grades, I had my resume, I worked super hard, I think I deserve this. But when there's about 1,000, 2,000 applications, everybody looks the same, they don't know what to do with that. Coupled with the fact that you being an international student, there's immigration, visa stuff that makes it harder. So what I realized was you're just supposed to be friends with a lot of people inside the company. If you know somebody, leverage that connection. And even at college, undergrads who had summer internship experiences there. So if you reach out to them, they put in a good word for you, your resume comes out, and then you have a chance to make it work. So that's something I learned, and I'd love to make sure that when you guys are good, this is a far way away, but just looking back at Harvard, I wish I had known that. It would have been very helpful and a lot less heartache. That being said, ultimately, I want to be a police officer back home. So I've got my 6-7 months in New York City. I think it's an important experience. Want to figure out what professional experiences are like. But if you guys will be seeing me in Peshawar, Pakistan 2 years from now, being a police officer and trying to do what I feel strongly about. So as a Harvard undergrad, you have a lot of different resources on campus. So one of these resources is called the Office of Career Services, OCS. They send out a lot of emails. There's always like an internship, a talk, a networking session, and to be honest, there's a lot of noise. You really don't know what you should go to, what you shouldn't go to, unless you feel super strongly about something. I tried to flag talks about consulting for myself, or about like finance and computer software stuff whenever somebody on campus would come and talk about that. I think what you'll realize is that any resource at Harvard is very input oriented. So if you're passive and looking for things, you're most probably not going to get much out of it. And ultimately, my job has nothing to do with OCS. I had to get it through a different route. But if you know that you want to work for Interpol, if you know that you want to work for the World Bank, go to OCS, talk to them about it, and then listen to what constraints they lay forward. So you can't get it because they only hire graduate students, or you can get it but you have to do A, B, and C. Do A, B, and C and get that job. So that's why the OCS is very helpful, but I think it's always, so job searching, they'll tell you, is a contact sport. It's like you have to get in, get your hands dirty, get in and talk to the people who are doing it. You can even be weird and like go look on LinkedIn and write random people's names and say, hey, do you want to talk about your job? And most of the time, you being an interested undergrad, they'll give you that chance and opportunity. So not to stress you guys out, don't have to worry about it freshman, sophomore year, but it's something to think about. I think Harvard, by its nature, has sometimes it feels like an infinite number of resources. Now that's a large, but I think you'll see like 20, 30 acronyms on campus that'll like hit you. Like the Bureau of Study Council, for example. That's a resource that helps you with peer tutor counseling, or if you're super stressed out, you can go and talk to them for a bit. And they have like an office, and they have little groups where you can talk and vent about things if you'd like to. Harvard has there's lots of counseling services basically to help you grow as a person. But I think what you might find in terms of resources or the support network that you need, it's usually your extracurriculars or your friends that kind of help you, lift you, and make Harvard the experience that it has to be for you. But if you're thinking about something specific, you'll find it. For me, the most helpful resource, and this might sound, I think it's intertwined with academics. So what happens is when you come in as a freshman, there's something called expository writing and requirement. And they place you, and people are stressed out because they're giving that exam and they want to get into Expos 20, not into Expos 10. But I was one of those people that was placed in Expos 10. And I don't think it was because I couldn't speak well, I don't understand English. It was more because I just wasn't that great a writer and I didn't know the dynamics of writing. And so I come into Expos 10, it's 10 students with one of the most brilliant preceptors I've ever seen, who teaches you just how to write. She'll literally take your writing, take things out of it and be like, do you see how this doesn't make sense? Like she'll highlight the thesis statements, different paragraphs, what the arguments are, and everything will start making color, like making sense to you. I'm more of an analytical thinker because I've done math most of my time, but I realized writing is just like math, or even more fluid and dynamic. It was an awesome experience, and as a consequence, I got placed into an Expos 20 class by preference, which made me an even better writer, and the resource, it's an excellent writing resource, but also at the same time it helps you succeed in other classes at Harvard. So that's been my most useful and helpful resource. And the reason that I bring that up is because they make it mandatory for you to go to something that's called a peer writing tutor, who's basically, you go to him, you show him your piece of writing, and he'll talk to you about your paper. And so those resources have been most helpful for me because I know what I want to say, I'm thinking about how I want to do it, and I need somebody to talk to about it. So I think I'm still learning things at Harvard. Yes, it's a process that's never ending, but I think most of all I've just confirmed a few beliefs that I already had about the world and the way everything works. So, and I'm gonna go into cliche mode and I'm gonna sound super corny, but the idea that if you wake up in the morning and believe today is going to be a good day, it's going to be a fantastic day. If you like how you can extract good feelings and good energy from people from the most diverse backgrounds if you try hard enough, and how exposure is important to that. These things sound vague, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I've learned that you can grow in ways you actually. So Dean Dingman from freshman year said this. I meet him freshman year and he looks at me and he tells me, and I wasn't an arrogant freshman, but I was like, when you come in as a freshman, you think you've had the entire world figured out. You've made it to Harvard, and you realize afterwards that is not true. So he tells me that you're going to grow in ways you never expected. And to me, I've always thought there was one way to grow, right? Like sure, like you can grow socially, personally, spiritually, intellectually, like academically, but like there's a good way to do it. But what you realize is like the world is gray. There's no good way to grow, but you will grow nonetheless. And so I think that's the most important thing I've learned at Harvard. So you might feel uncomfortable as you grow, but stick with it and embrace that discomfort to become the new you, a better you. So there's so many names because I absolutely adore almost everybody I know on this campus, and each and every person has been such an important part of my experience, but I will venture to say a few names and then feel bad because I forgot somebody. So one person that I'd like to start off with is Harriet Karaoke. And what I've learned from her is something that I don't think I've learned from anybody else, and it's that if you're carefree, life will always work out. And so that's a big lesson that I take home with myself every day. My roommates, Nikki Charles, Mason Barnard, and Alex Liu, are people who've like really just taught me how to be comfortable with other people. I was a very I'm cool, my big wall person, and now I hug everybody and I tell them that I love them. Eliza Pugh, Ariana Campos, OU Chojams, Anastasia Snekova, Diana Speth, Julia Key, Charlie Folletta, Victoria Piccione, Ashley Chen, and everybody on the 6th floor of Quincy.